guys, welcome to this special bonus episode of Lifting the Lid.
In this episode, expect to find out how to best prepare for Royal Marines training, what I did incorrectly before I joined, and why you're a helmet if you run in vans.
Let's get into it.
Right, bonus episode.
Right.
We're in.
Let's go. Right, Shep, cast your mind back
Yeah.
to when you were a young whippersnapper, full of spunk.
Yeah.
How did you prepare for the Marines? Because I
Probably-
can't fucking remember. So
yeah,
you bet.
yeah.
If you don't
Hopefully
remember,
I can remember. This is
if
gonna be
you
a
don't
bad
remember,
episode.
we fucked.
Yeah. So probably not optimally, I would say. I did a lot of running, a lot of push-ups, a lot of pull-ups, and a lot of sit-ups, from what I remember. That's pretty much what was out there in terms of like literature. That was what I knew I had to be tested on. So I thought my logical brain was like, I'm going to be tested on that. Let's just train that. I do remember a period of time at college doing Murph every single Wednesday.
Oh, yeah,
You made me do one of them ones.
Yeah.
They're fucking shit.
They're shit, aren't they? Yeah. By the way, we're in hoodies because it's like sub-zero outside.
Yeah, it's actually snowed.
yeah.
So don't give us any shit in the comments, right?
So we've fallen foul of our uniform. Anyway, so I did Murph every single Wednesday for probably about best part of a year, maybe. So that, if you don't know what Murph is, it's a mile run, 100 pull-ups, 200 push-ups, 300 squats, and another mile run. It's probably a decent workout in individuality to prepare for the military because it's a lot of the movements you're going to be doing. There's running involved, there's fatigue, like compromised running involved.
Yeah.
So it's decent. However, probably not ideal to be doing the same workout every single week with no progressions, with no moving forward. So I did that a lot. I did. I remember doing the tests to the beep quite a fair bit as well. So the push-ups, pull-ups, sit-ups test to the bleep. I did a lot of running on the treadmill to prep for my test. So what I would do is just look at the test I had in front of me, kind of reverse engineer it, and just put it in my training. And I just did a lot of volume because that's all I knew.
Yeah.
Just thought the more the better. I'm going to run loads. I don't want to be underprepared. So I'm going to do and see how it comes out. It did work, but I know now looking back that it wasn't ideal, wasn't optimal.
Yeah, it's very much like an old school approach to
100%.
training, isn't it? It's got a lot of body weight movements,
Yeah.
a lot of cardio.
No new school thinking, no like thinking about injury prevention or no thinking about longevity, just thinking how can I pass this thing in front of me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No weight training.
No weight
No
training,
gym-
very
no
minimal.
No
Anyway.
strength work in the gym either.
No, I remember, so we got exposed to deadlift and squats and stuff in college in my course. My max deadlift when I was 17 it would have been. So when I was 17, my max deadlift was 120 kilos, which is terrible. That was
shit.
max with no form, shit form, no belt, no nothing. So you were pulling, what are you pulling when you were 17?
200 or something.
Ridiculous. So I was so weak, especially for my age. And I went in at a body weight of 65 kilos, which probably played from the training I did, because I just did running and loads of body weight
Yeah.
stuff. Couldn't pack on any muscle, couldn't pack on any
Yeah,
weight.
but you
So I was
honestly
such a
you
racing
couldn't
snake.
throw muscle at you.
No.
Like, it wouldn't stick.
It wouldn't stick, yeah, a lot of snow. But I mean, I had pretty much no muscle on me. I was super lean because all I did was smash calisthenics and smashed running.
Yeah.
Did some swimming, but did no like machine work, like rowing and assault bike, nothing like that. No power stuff. There was nothing in my legs past a certain point.
Yeah, thinking back to it now, like you were like
I was tiny.
yeah, you weighed about 8 stone wet through, didn't you?
Yeah.
Well, you wouldn't know now.
I
'Cause you
was-
actually managed to pack on a fair bit of muscle, but like
After training, I did, yeah. But before that and during training, I was the minimum weight, which was 65
Yeah.
kilos. I was actually underweight for a period of time before my
like the runt of the little.
yeah, I was, yeah. That's why I struggled on some of the tests because I was just lighter than everyone else and had to carry people who were much heavier than me, and obviously relative strength didn't really count for much when you're carrying a person plus kit. So it's like if you're not strong and you haven't got that foundation, not only are you more prone to injury, but you're also you're just weaker, and so that external load that you've now got to move over 12 miles is much heavier for you in a relative sense.
I think there is something to be said for that old school training method, though. Not potentially for the physical benefits of it, but I think mentally it instills more of a toughness in you.
I agree. Yeah, I do agree.
Which is probably why like the Marines are still clinging on to it a bit longer than...
I think there's a lot of in the military though, it worked for us, so we'll just do it. and keep going and keep going and keep going.
It's
So
this
there's a lot of
argument
that.
of like work hard or work smart, though, isn't it?
Or if it's not broke, don't fix it. But
Yeah.
if you look probably at the statistics and analyse it, it probably is broke in a way. Because
Yeah,
there's
yeah.
so many, like we've mentioned in the first episode, so many people go through and try to become a Marine. But the amount of people who get injured and fall foul of that, probably because of maybe substandard prep or potentially when they're actually in training getting treated like they shouldn't be. But again, like you say, there's a bit of a rough with the smooth because you have to subject people to that kind of toughness training, if you like, to create that mental strength we need. You can't just have someone train optimally because it's the easy way, because then you
Yeah.
won't create that mental strength.
This is.
So it's
I think this
it's a
is
toss-up.
where. This is where it diverges from athletes.
Yeah,
You know, so if you look at an athlete's model, like you want them training optimally,
Yeah.
you want smash recovery, you want
well fed, well hydrated,
well fed, well hydrated.
well slept.
You basically want to cause them as little discomfort as possible so they
Mm.
can perform at their optimum level.
Yeah.
That's all well and good at Lympstone, but as soon as you get into a battlefield, that goes out the window.
And that's the difference. So that is the major difference. So an athlete, like you rightly said, we're asking them to perform as well as they can when we're well fed, well slept, well hydrated, in the most optimal setting. For a Marine, we need them to perform at that same level almost, or maybe more.
Yeah.
But now they're not fed, they haven't slept in 3 days, they're wet through, they're threaders, they can't think of anything worse than to run. So it's like, it's that mental side of things is important, and just being able to do things because, you know, there's that mental strength and you can just switch it on is a huge factor. We can't just have them train on 8 hours sleep with the right food, because we have to create almost that suboptimal condition, because that's what they're going to be subjected to when they actually pass out and go to a unit and go to warfare or whatever it is. So that we have to create some of that.
It's a fine art, really, isn't it? It's a balance.
Yeah.
Between kind of correct and relevant training methods, but then also you still need a bit of that.
But it's sport specific, isn't it? So if you're looking at an athlete, you'd be like, right, you're a cyclist, we need to make you as good as cycling as possible. You wouldn't have them doing swimming or doing whatever, doing something completely different. So the same is true for a soldier. You've got to look at, they're not looking at being as fit as possible. They're looking at being a really, really good and effective soldier.
Yeah.
So how can we make that? It's not like, let's make them just as fit as possible in terms of good aerobic capacity and good strength, good muscle endurance, because they actually need this extra component, which is that resilience, that mental strength, and that ability just to show up and switch it on when they need to.
Well, you want to make them as fit as possible in suboptimal conditions, basically.
Yeah. But the ability to perform in that environment, so
Yeah.
not necessarily training them always in that environment, but exposing them to it on a
Yeah.
semi-regular basis, which I think training does do well. I think that is a portion it's got right, and it's changed in the past few years as to whether there's less sleep deprivation than there used to be. The food's maybe a little bit better, but it's minor. It's minor
Well, it
changes.
comes back to what you said about if it's not broke, don't fix it.
Yeah.
That's their argument, isn't
Yeah,
it?
yeah, and but the counter argument that is, it could be better. So let's look at how it can be better.
Yeah, so if we come back to how you prepared for training,
Yeah.
if you was to do it again, what would you do differently?
Just more stability, more strength work, much more. So in terms of foundations, as we both know,
Yeah.
you know, zone 2 training in terms of aerobic foundation, that would be a huge portion.
Like not every run thrashing yourself.
Yeah,
basically.
which is what I did hugely. And we'd do intervals because I thought, right, hard must be better, so let's do loads of them.
Yeah.
I would
it's
be
that,
doing
it's that full throttle approach, isn't it?
Yeah.
That I think people that are kind of ill-informed can fall into because they assume, oh well, if you're working hard, this must be the best method of training.
Yeah, and if you're that way inclined that you want to join the Marines, you probably have that mindset anyway.
Which is coming back to what we were saying. Is good because it instills that mindset in you.
Yeah.
But you're not actually training optimally.
No, so it's, again, the balance. But yeah, so I would have done my zone 2 work, a couple of sessions of that a week. I would have done a decent strength routine, so like your squat, bench, deadlift, unilateral stuff, so one single leg, single arm kind of thing. And I'd have had a huge focus on actual core training, so I don't mean doing thousands of sit-ups, which is what I did.
Yeah.
Actual core stability training, so that when something affects you,
Functional core stability.
yeah, you
training.
can stabilise and actually not be injured, and also throwing in some kind of accessory work as well, which I never did, like single joint stuff to
Yeah.
isolate things. which I never did any of that. So it would have been vastly different. There still would have been elements of obviously looking at the tests I've got to pass and reverse engineering and thinking how do I train for it. But it would have been less the focus of my training and more an element of it.
Yeah, you've still got to keep one eye on it. Because at the end of the day, they're the test you've got to pass.
Yeah, you've got a test, but also you have to remain injury free through training. If it's no good you passing the test and you just being mega weak, and then you get into training week 2 and you've out of it anyway. Because so it's again the balance between being able to pass the test and kind of riding that line and playing the game, if you like. So you can do loads of push-ups, you can do loads of sit-ups, but also having that strength and having that ability to have endurance.
Well, like making yourself robust prior to training, basically.
Yeah.
Because obviously the whole point of training is to make you robust.
But mentally robust, really. That's what they're looking at.
Yeah, true. If you can also then get a jump on everyone else.
Yeah. From the physical side of things.
From the physical side of things.
And one can't exist. It can't be mutually exclusive. Like if you've just got the strongest mind in the world, but you're not anywhere near it physically, you're not going to get anywhere.
The mind and body are highly interconnected, aren't they?
Yeah, and you've got to have both. You have to have a strong mind and a strong body. Again, the same. If you had the strongest body in the world, but have a weak mindset and quit every time, then you're not going to get anywhere either. So it is about having that fine line, that balance that we've been talking about.
Yeah, and going back to what you're saying about strength exercises, I'd looked through some of your questions on your Instagram earlier, and someone asked, they asked us to recommend lower body exercises for them.
Okay, lower body.
To prep. So I'd probably go with the foundation of lower body powerlifting movements.
Yeah.
So, squat and deadlift.
Yeah, I'd go squat, trap bar, deadlift and back squat really.
Trap bar, deadlift. And then I'd probably go more into strongman-esque movements.
Okay. Yeah.
Just because it's more functional.
Yeah.
And it, like you were saying, it's sport-specific training.
Yeah.
Shouldering, you're carrying loads.
Oh yeah, loads.
Awkward loads.
Yeah, definitely.
Over relatively long distances.
Yeah, so carries.
Carries, great one. Sled work.
Yeah, things like lunges,
pulls,
walking lunges, heavy walking lunges is a great one.
Unilaterally as well, so unilateral farmers walks are a good one.
Yeah, Bulgarian split squats are obviously fantastic and horrendous, so create that mental strength that we're talking about. Also things like, talking about injury prevention and prehabilitation, Nordic curls and things that people just don't do. Because if you're looking at training for any reason other than performance, so if you're looking at training for aesthetics, no one's doing a Nordic curl for aesthetics. No one's doing that. So,
which is why you're going to get a Nordic curl rigging like CrossFit boxes.
Yeah, exactly. So only for injury prevention and creating that strength and stability in the hamstring, because that's a commonly injured area. Just like the shins are, just like the calves, so you have to look at the areas. If we're looking at lower body, we have to look at the areas that are commonly injured. So people pull hamstrings all the time. People hurt their hips all the time. People get shin splints.
I've gone through shin splints. It's shit.
Yeah, so you've got to look at these areas and think, how can I prehab it and how can I basically avoid it in the short term.
I think there is a lot to be said for prehab work as well. There's
Massive.
a lot of people. I've fallen foul of this myself on many occasions. I didn't even learn the first time.
Yeah.
The prehab only becomes apparent to you once it's too late.
Yeah, once it's now rehab.
Yeah, once it becomes rehab. It's like, why didn't I do this before I got shin splints?
Exactly. And look, everyone does it as well. It almost takes you getting it wrong to then learn the lesson.
Yeah, you have to get knocked down a peg. Because when you're smashing it, you're on cloud 9.
Yeah.
You're like, I don't need that prehab shit.
Prehab.
I'm basically Superman.
Yeah, exactly.
You
just thinking completely injury free.
You've done a 5k in like half an hour.
Yeah.
So you think,
I don't need to do my tibialis anterior raise. There's no point. But yeah, believe me and believe us, because we've been through it and been there, that there is huge value in doing that prehab work and doing those tiny little muscles that we take for granted, like that muscle on the front of your shin, which you don't think does anything.
Yeah.
It does, and if that's stronger, you're going to be less prone to shin splints. And shin splints takes so many people out in terms of military prep. If we look from applying or just registering your interest to the end of training, the amount of people that get shin splints is insane.
But the amount of questions that you get about fucking shin splints.
Ridiculous. And most people haven't got actual shin splints. They've just got shin pain, and they think, oh, shin splints. But
they've got the early signs of some kind of overtraining injury in that.
Yeah, which is good that they're like identifying it and thinking, how can I get around it? But a lot of people will be like, I'm going to do my prehab. So if they've got shin pain, they're going to do their prehab work, but they're going to continue running because why not? How else are they going to do it?
Yeah.
But you can't do that because you're just going to further play into the overuse, which is shin splints.
But this comes back into this kind of old school mentality of like stiff upper lip.
Yeah.
I think because it's like, oh well, I need to be nails to be in the Marine, so like I'll just run through it.
Yeah.
But like,
unfortunately
with shin splints, if you got shin splints, you time off feet.
Yeah. Well, it's almost like
saying it's only going to get worse.
It's almost like having a stress fracture in your shin and being like, I'm just going to run through it, just run it off, sound.
Yeah. Like,
that doesn't work.
You're not fucking David Goggins, alright. And even if you are David Goggins, that bloke is fucked.
Well, yeah, his knee X-rays tell a story. And so, yes, he's nails, and yes, he's hardened his mind through adversity and discomfort. But he even says himself, I'm not telling you to go and run on broken legs, because that's a stupid thing to do.
That bloke is going to be in a wheelchair very soon.
Yeah, I don't think he will. He won't let himself. But yeah, so if you are experiencing any shin pain or any kind of knee pain, ankle pain, time off feet is what you need. And you can still get your fitness in. There's bikes exist, right? Spin bikes exist. It's great. We have so much access now.
You can get your cardio in without putting your shins through the mill all the time, basically.
And even if you aren't experiencing any shin pain, then throwing in some, maybe replacing a run if you're running loads of times a week for some low impact cardio is hugely valuable, because again, it mitigates that and it manages the stress you're taking through the shins.
Yeah, I mean, it's cliche, but it's true. Like, you don't know what you've got until it's gone.
Yeah, that's so true.
Your health is like the best example of that.
Yeah, and anyone who's been injured will know that.
It's like when you get a man flu or something.
Yeah.
And you're on death's door.
Yeah.
And you start like looking back to the good old days of like your full health. Yeah. I remember when I could breathe.
We're speaking from two white males who've been healthy pretty much their entire lives. But yeah.
White privilege.
Yeah.
When I missed the bus. Yeah. I don't get the bus. I've got a car.
Yeah. We both got cars. But yeah, the bottom line is you have to, if you're experiencing early onsets of injury, then get ahead of it and don't try to man up and kind of get through it, because it just doesn't work and you'll just make it worse and worse and worse.
Yeah, tendonitis type injuries are common overuse injuries, not necessarily in your lower body either. So like if you're nailing like pull-ups and push-ups and your body's not adapted to it, forearm,
tons of rope climbs.
Rope climbs are
many
if
people.
You've got access to a rope and you just throw yourself into it,
you're
probably going to get something in your forearms because they're just not used to it.
Well, this is what happens. How many gyms, certainly kind of 3 years ago, had access to a rope? None, really. So you would go into recruit training, yes, you can do loads of pull-ups, but you've never actually climbed a rope, had that real stress through your bicep tendon, through your forearms. And so many people would get tendonitis where they'd finish a rope climb session and they can't straighten their arms.
And it's horrible in your arms and your forearms.
Yeah, it's terrible.
It stops you doing basically any push or pull movement.
Yeah, and you can't grip anything, so you're useless in training, which is obviously the last thing you need. And so the best thing to do to mitigate that, if you haven't got a rope, is to condition your biceps and condition your forearms to a lot of hanging, a lot of grip work, a lot of, neutral grip pulling, anything you can do to get that tendon that sort of connects your bicep and your forearms stronger is going to be huge. Loads of fast pull-ups, all that sort of thing is going to be massive, because so many people, like I say, struggle with biceps tendonitis pretty much and elbow tendonitis in training, because it's that torque that you haven't experienced before.
Yeah, it's like softly catch your monkey, isn't it? Like, you've got to slowly adapt your body.
Yeah, well,
because a lot of people don't realise that muscles adapt a lot more quicker than bones. Your skeleton, basically. Yeah.
But it still adapts. So
it does, but it just takes longer.
Yeah, and you have to be mega patient with it. It's the same with everything. Like we were saying the other day, 12 weeks ago, 15 weeks ago, in this marathon prep, if you'd asked us to run 10 miles...
It was daunting.
We'd have been fucking written off, but...
Well, I remember some of our early 13k runs.
Yeah.
They seemed like...
They were long.
A breeze. And now our shortest runs 15k.
Yeah, exactly. And we ran 18 miles on the weekend, so that's almost marathon distance. So the point is, if you gradually increase it over time, stimulus, then the body adapts to that stimulus and then you can go and do it. So this is why comparison's such a dangerous thing, because social media... And things like Strava, I think Strava is great, but you can follow people on Strava and be like, fuck, they're running this many miles a week,
Yeah.
And then if you go and think that's what I should be doing, straight in from doing 5 miles a week to 20, 30, then you're 100% going to get injured because you haven't adapted slowly to that mileage and that stress. And the same's true with anything.
Yeah, and we have mates as well. This doesn't go for military prep as well. I think it's quite a common misconception that like if you're not trained before or you're like new to the gym, people kind of make a beeline for the treadmill because they're comfortable with it. It's like, oh, well, I know running, like everyone's ran before, but they don't realise that like it's actually probably like one of the worst things you can just throw yourself into,
and also a fine art. And how many people have the right shoes? Fucking no one. How many people run with the right form? No one. How many people progress correctly? No one. So
the amount of people I see doing like a strength session in the gym, so they're like squatting and deadlifting in like Converse or Vans, and then they'll do, oh well, I'll get my 20 minutes of cardio at the end. No running trainers, so just like absolutely pounding their shins in like a pair of Converse.
That's terrible. Yeah, and with the wrong running form, smashing their heels into the deck before they do it. So it's like that is just a recipe for disaster. And again, if that same person then looks at like the mileage we're doing or whatever, and thinks, I'll just go and do that every session. What people do as well is they have these spurts of energy, spurts of motivation. So they're like, right, this week super motivated. They've just watched like David Goggins documentary or whatever. So they're like, I'm gonna do 30 minutes of cardio every day this week. I'm gonna do it 5 days a week. Yeah, I'm fucking hard as fuck. And then when they actually get to the end of that week, they wonder why. Oh, my shins are hurting, my calves are hurting, my feet are hurting.
Their mind's broken. Yeah. Their fucking legs are broken.
Yeah, because they have this all-in approach. It's like they can't just put one chip in at a time. They have to go, right, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to go all in at once, and it just doesn't work.
Well, that's the problem if you burn off motivation and not discipline.
Yeah, so it's habits, isn't it? It's creating the right habits to get to the gym consistently and do the right amount of cardio and balance the right amount of cardio with the right amount of weights and balance it with the stresses in your life that you might be already experiencing. All these things are why you have to have an individual approach to fitness rather than just having a broad brush like, oh, he's doing it, so I'll just do the same as him. You don't know what he's doing in his own time or in the rest of his life.
It's the curse of comparison, isn't it? You can only compare yourself to a previous you.
And basically to you last week, because what a lot of people do is, 5 years ago I used to run marathons, so sweet, I'll just go and run 20 miles this week. Doesn't work like that, because again, you're not who you were 5 years ago. You're who you were last week. So let's look at what you were doing last week. Were you doing 5,000 steps? Cool, do 7,500. That's it. That's all it is. And then do that again, and then just increase. It's a little bit off topic. But
I was going to say, what we've done there is we've thrown a lot of shit at the wall.
But
we've said a lot of things, not necessarily in a coherent order.
Hopefully it makes sense.
A bit like the government.
We're not the government.
But what we can do is we can rein it in.
Yeah.
And we can go through common mistakes that people make with their military.
So we're back on topic. Okay.
Yeah, well, we're on the same topic. We're just going to try and make it more structured for people.
So it's less like a because we're both quite passionate about this topic, and so if it ever goes off into a rant or into a ramble, then that's because we're just kind of
peeved off our own.
Yeah, exactly. But anyway, we're back in.
So overtraining is definitely got to be top.
Okay. I would say so. And I would say that's because people don't have a coach or someone in their corner that's telling them what to do or when to do it. Because like I said, I would just do volume, just everything. Because all I cared about was passing those tests.
Yeah.
So if I thought I could do an extra mile or an extra run or an extra set of push-ups, an extra whatever, I would just do it. Because I didn't know what was too much, didn't know what was enough, didn't know what was too little. And so if you've got someone externally who's telling you, right, this is what I think you should be doing, go and do that, don't do any more. Then it's like you've just farmed out your kind of responsibility for your fitness to someone else. I think that's where that comes into play, and it's a super powerful thing, because otherwise, like I say, you're just going to go more, and then
so that is born out of like lack of structure,
lack of knowledge, kind of
lack
thing as
of
well.
knowledge,
lack of experience.
Yeah, also, and conversely as well, I know this is an issue as well from exposing myself to your platform.
Yeah.
Is people leave it too late, and then they just go in like a bull in a china shop, and they're like, right, I've got 4 weeks to basically turn myself into He-Man.
Yeah, exactly. And also, there's a couple of issues there, but like that's a lack of investment on their part, in my opinion. Like, if you're going to pursue a goal as difficult as passing the commando course, which is ridiculously difficult, right? You can't just go at it in 2 weeks. You can't be like, you just mosey along, doing nothing, and then be like, oh shit. PJFTs in 2 weeks.
You've just completely shot yourself in the foot.
Yeah, so you can't blame anyone.
At a disadvantage.
You can't blame anyone but yourself. And this is the other thing I'll say on that, is that you absolutely know, and we've researched it, it's easy to find, you know the standards you've got to have.
Yeah.
Certainly for the first 2 tests, for the PJFT and for the CPC bodyweight tests, you know exactly what you've got to do. 3 rounds, 20 push-ups, 30 sit-ups, 20 burpees, and a minute plank.
Yeah.
That's what you've got to do. There's audio on YouTube. You can go and test that, and that's. You know if you've done it or not. If you can't do it, don't fucking apply yet. It's not rocket science.
That's what I mean, boy.
You can't just... People do it sometimes. Even in my academy, some people do it. It really annoys me. Like, they'll be like, yeah, I booked my PJFT next week. I'll be like, right, can you do a run-through? They're like, nah, I think I'll just crack it on the day, though. It's like...
It comes back to what you were saying, though, about they'll get this sudden burst of motivation.
Yes, yeah.
And then they'll fucking throw everything at it.
Yeah.
And then a week later, when, like, life isn't going their way and they're depressed...
And their body's written off.
And their body's written off. They'll wonder like why everything's against them.
Yeah, and then they won't do their sessions, and then it just falls into this spiral. But the bottom line there is, if you know the test you're going to face, just practice it. And if you can't do it, you can't do it. You can't just show up on the day. It's like us being like, right, going to run a sub 3 hour marathon. I'm not going to train for it. I'm just going to rock up. And on the day, I reckon I'll just crack it. I reckon I'll just do it.
Yeah.
There's no way in hell that's going to happen.
And if you do it off the cuff, it's going to be absolutely rank.
Yeah.
So why would you put yourself through that?
Just make it easy for yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's almost like, if you take it to a different context, if you had, a GCSE test or a exam to do, and someone had given you a list of all the answers, right, and you just didn't bother learning them, that's your fault. That's absolutely on you. Yeah. Like, you can't then go to the test and be like, oh fuck, I failed and get all depressed about it. You had the answers, and with Royal Marines tests, you have the answers. You know you've got to do 3 rounds. If you're an officer, you've got to do 4. You know you've got to do 40 press-ups, whatever it is. Go and do them.
Like, you can't really get any more concrete than the Royal Marine test.
Yeah,
because they're basically they're carved in stone. Do you know what I mean? Like,
it used to blow my mind, even before I knew anything about this, whatever. I got to my PRMC, and lads are falling at the first hurdle, not passing the bleep test, getting 10 push-ups out of 40. I'm like, how?
Right, lads, time for the push-ups. Wait, what?
Yeah. Oh, shit, I thought I was here for Girl Guide training or whatever. Yeah. But I don't know, I just that doesn't compute in my head. If you're going to go and try and do something and tell all your mates, tell all your family you're going to be a Royal Marine, to not prepare the specific tests they're going to throw at you, is baffling to me.
Well, I know these tests inside out.
Because you've done them yourself.
Because I've done them myself, but I found out through you and our other mates that joined the corps. So just second-hand news, and I know them. So if you've got an actual vested interest in fucking joining up, and you're telling me you don't know these tests, then you either don't have a fucking brain, or you're just not clued up.
Or you're just not invested enough, in which case you're not cut out for it. But now, especially, there's so much resource out there. There's my page, there's my colleagues' page, whatever.
Pages.
Yeah, there's other pages I won't mention.
Some better than this.
Yeah, exactly. But there's so much out there which pretty much give you the right information in terms of the standards. So go and use them. And obviously, like we've said at the start, that's not all you should be doing.
Yeah.
But if you're gonna do something, do that. If you're gonna do nothing else, do the tests, right? And make sure you can pass them, because that's what I did, and I managed to get through by the skin of my teeth. But I managed to get through.
So again, gone off topic a bit. Overtraining. That's definitely one. 2, they're all interlinked, but I think lack of attention to recovery, which feeds into overtraining.
Yeah. Well, it creates overtraining, but I think again you fall foul of the being young kind of misconception.
And to be fair, we both did it ourselves. It's only because we're now
exactly.
25
and you start to feel things a bit more. But if you're 18 and you're not feeling anything, you're like, I don't need to foam roll, I don't need to warm up, I don't need to cool down before and after my runs.
When I was into powerlifting and I was lifting some decent weights, my warm up was A, shocking, and B, non-existent.
Well,
but you can ride it off because you're young.
Even my good mate, who I've trained now for years on an informal basis, I will program in like a set of Olympic weightlifting, which is complex, requires flexibility, requires warming up, requires priming the nervous system. Right? He will go in and he will just put his working weight on the bar and just rip it, and he'll miss the first lift. He'll be like, fuck, that's my warm up, done. He's like, that is mental, and he's a Marine, and so that plays into the fact that we all think because 1, we're fit anyway, and 2, we're quite young, we don't need to do these things, but you do.
Yeah,
and
it's born out of ignorance, isn't it? Really, like an innocent ignorance.
And you do get a better return on that investment. You get a better session because you've prepared for it correctly and you've warmed up. You'll notice a massive difference if you start to put half decent warm-ups into your sessions. It's like when you run, if you go out and just, if you're doing like a set of intervals and you just go and do your first 800 metres straight out the door, no leg swing, no nothing, it's going to be terrible and you're going to feel horrendous. That first one's going to spike your heart rate, you're going to be all over the place, breathing's going to be all over. If you go and do like a 7-minute jog beforehand, then your heart rate's up, you're nice and you're warm.
Yeah.
Then you can go into it.
Well, we've learnt this through our marathon training.
Yeah.
But also, if you think that this is quite like marathons reference heavy, it's because it's literally consuming our lives at the moment. So it's basically our only reference point.
Yeah, we have like 7 weeks out, 6 weeks out, or something like that. So yeah, we have no other reference. We're just running constantly now. So,
but like through doing all this running, like we've got our like pre-run preparation, our warm-up, post-run. We've got that down to a T now.
That's it. And like you just alluded to, preparation doesn't just consume warm-up. It consumes what you do before the gym and how you fuel, how you hydrate. You know, all these things will play into how you perform in that session. And ultimately, you know, hundreds of well-fueled, well-recovered, well-executed sessions are going to put you in a hugely more net positive position than 100 the same session, but you've executed it worse because you've fueled and you've prepared less. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So it's like it's a no-brainer for me to now prepare correctly for all your sessions because again over that lifespan of however many times you prepare for the Marines, the hundreds and hundreds of sessions, you're going to be in a much better place. It's almost like if you follow a bearing and your bearing is like 5 degrees off, you're going to end up in a completely different position because it just completely goes off course and compounds over time.
Yeah, it's the compounding over time.
Interest, it's the rule of compound interest, really, or the law of whatever it's called.
Right, so overtraining, neglecting recovery, lack of strength training. Huge. I think we've now kind of decided is definitely an issue.
It is, and I think it doesn't help either when people have relatives or people at points of contact that are serving Marines or whatever. They have this confirmation bias, and they'll be like, "Yeah, but I never did any of that bollocks." You don't need to listen to him telling you to Bulgarian split squat before you join the Marines. Because I had a comment the other day on my YouTube short or whatever. Doesn't make any sense. He said, it doesn't make any sense to do exercises you're not going to do in the Marines training for Marines training. And it's just like you have no.
Honestly, read a book on strength and conditioning.
Yeah, absolutely no knowledge of S&C. Like, what do you think rugby players do to prepare for their rugby matches?
Exactly.
They don't just run at each other with the ball in their hands. They do trap bar deadlifts. They do anti-rotation exercises. They do landmine press. They do all these exercises to contribute to being stronger, so that when they go on the pitch, they can perform better. Yeah. It's not rocket science.
Rugby's a good analogy actually because now in professional rugby, they will do like one full contact session a week.
Yeah.
So they're fresh for game day.
Well, that and to prolong their longevity. Yeah.
So like old school before it went professional, like you just basically thrash yourself every day.
That's the same as everything that old school would be. Looking at what we're doing, let's just recreate it in a training setting.
But since it went professional, like at the start of our lives, or whatever, late 90s, and now S&C came into it more. Like the full contact stuff that they do is minimal.
And now if you look at like
it's all gym orientated.
Yeah, and you look at the performance
and technique
of like 1990 rugby player to 2023 rugby player, it's worlds apart, and you wonder why. It's because now they've got a good foundation behind them. If we take this into a Marines prep setting, just to make it relate, people will do this. They'll be like, right, I've got to pass my 3-round circuit, my PJFT. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go and do that PJFT test every day for 3 months.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this is crazy. So if you're trying to build your squat up, right, do you just go and 1 rep max your squat every day? You don't, do you? You go percentages, you work around it with like accessories, you do this sort of stuff. Same with like running, if you're going to PR your 5k, do you just go, people do this, do you just go and run a 5k as fast as you can every day? You do not. So don't look at training like you've just got to do the test to train for the test. They're two completely separate things.
Yeah.
And doing, like you said, sled work to prepare you for fireman's carries or to prepare you for the drags you're going to have to do on CPC is hugely transferable and completely relevant. But people just don't see that and people will take almost a too specific approach to their training. So there's kind of it's a paradox, isn't it, where you can either be completely too specific and just doing the actual test you're going to do.
Yeah, in your training. You've got like tunnel vision almost. Yeah. It's like you've only got your eyes on the goal.
Yeah.
You don't realise if you actually take a slightly more holistic approach,
you'll have a better outcome.
You'd reach the goal faster than the tunnel vision approach.
Well, the way I look at it is, if you're just doing, let's take the PJFT for example. If you're just doing the PJFT over and over again, you might get marginal gains where you're increasing like efficiency in a movement, or you're like, your muscular endurance is going to increase slightly. But if you peel it back and like separate it out and get better at push-ups in on their own, get better at core strength, better movement efficiency because you're doing them fresh, the movements rather than all at once. Then when you come back to the test, you might have added a round and a half onto what you could do rather than like a few reps. So that's why people, I think, get disillusioned with it, because they're putting all this work in, and they are working hard, but they're just their efforts are just ill invested. And so
it's lose-lose though, because they're basically thrashing themselves unnecessarily every day, but mentally, because they're doing the same thing every day as well.
That's true.
It just becomes monotonous.
Yeah, and then when they retest, they're like, I've only put on 2 reps onto my PJFT. Like, you wonder why. It's like the same as, like I use the running example. Like, it's the same as if you did 5k run every day. 1, you'd be burnt out. 2, you'd be bored of running 5ks.
Yeah.
And 3, you're only gonna take the tiniest bit off that time,
exactly,
rather than deconstructing it, doing your 800 meter runs, doing your zone 2 work, doing everything holistically around it, and then you're going to take minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes off your 5k time. So you have to look at it in a bit more of a professional sense. You can't just attack it like a bull in a china shop.
The new school
approach. Exactly.
Strength and conditioning.
Exactly.
Sports science.
I know. Oh my god, let's put science into the equation. Yeah, so
they were my 3 anyway. Have you got any more to throw into the mix? Obviously, you're more well versed.
Covered it fairly well. I think that testing instead of training is a massive one. I'm trying to think now. I think, like I mentioned it before, but not utilising low impact stuff. So a lot of people will see the way I approach military training, right? And they may buy my military program and they'll look at it and think, why is there only 3-4 runs in week 1? They're like expecting to run 30 miles a week. But it's because it's interspersed with different methods of cardio, circuits, low impact stuff, rowing. Because you can get a similar response from a row machine as you can from running, but you're not smashing your joints anymore. Yeah. And so that's my approach, and people will look at that and be like, hang on, I'm not running as much as I was with my old coach or whatever it is, but actually what you're doing is you're still getting the same fitness response, but your longevity's better.
You're working smarter basically.
Yeah, working smarter, not harder. And so and something like an assault bike, we've all been humbled by an assault bike.
Exactly.
You can't get that stimulus by running. No chance. If you sprint at 20 calories on an assault bike, try and recreate that anywhere else. You can't. And so to put that into like a fireman's carry setting or an assault course setting, you're getting that anaerobic response in a super accessible, super safe way, first of all. Because if you go too fast or too hard on the assault bike, what happens? Nothing.
Yeah.
You just slow down. So it's super safe, and the risk reward is absolutely there.
That's right, yeah. Whereas if you go all out in a sprint, your form's going to be shit.
Yeah. I actually covered this on my weekly video the other day. So for the academy, I'll do a weekly video, and the one person was asking essentially, why don't we do hill sprints in the program? And they're not in the program. And I told him, I said, we've got assault bike sprints in there because they recreate the stimulus. Yeah. And when you do a hill sprint, what happens? You're fucked, aren't you? And you're delirious now running down a hill, which is normally a trail because you found it in the woods. If you take our hill that we use, it's not paved, and you're going to run up there on set 10. You're going to start to bimble down. You're going to be fucked. And
heel striking.
You'll just misplace your foot and you'll get injured. So why do that when you can take it into a gym setting and be safe with it?
Well, exactly. It was like you start heel striking, you start blowing, so that your poor form turns to shit.
Yeah, and sometimes you can't recreate the same effort because there's other factors involved like terrain or weather or whatever.
It's a lot easier to channel what little energy you do have left on an assault bike than it is with a sprint. Because with a sprint, you just think, right, your technique's gone out the window. Yeah. Because, not that you had any anyway, because you're not a professional sprinter, but like, what little technique you had is now in the bin.
Yeah.
and it's all just throwing whatever you've got left at the wall, basically. So you're slapping your feet off the floor, your fucking arms are in the air, your head's going from side to side.
And then
that's not productive.
The recovery on a salt bike, you sit there and you spin your legs. Sound. The recovery on a hill sprint is you bimble down, and that's where injuries happen. I actually had it myself, where I sprained my ankle really, really badly jogging down from a hill sprint. Yeah. That's not to say hill sprints are bad. Look, if you've got no accessibility to an assault bike, then absolutely do them. But it's just to say, look at how you're training and think, how can you make it a little bit more safe without detracting from that training stimulus?
Yeah, that's what. Yeah, think of it like movement patterns. Don't think about single specific exercises. Think about movement patterns.
Yeah.
And exercises that potentially mimic, say, like, I don't know, a press up, but aren't press ups.
Yeah, well, exactly that. Exactly.
That's the way I can dumb it down.
That's the take home, isn't it? So, thinking about how we can, again, same thing, how we can train for something rather than test something. So if we're looking at an outcome, we're not going to run a marathon every week to train for a marathon. That's how we gotta look at it. Again, marathon reference.
Fucking hell,
we've got nothing else. Yeah. Right. Next, what are we saying?
Well, in terms of common mistakes, I think we've covered all the ones that we've got. Did you want to cover the resource list?
Yeah, let's go for it.
Right, so I've not that I'm in the right position to do this because I've never been a Marine, but just from putting together this podcast, I've obviously
done a bit of research.
Done a lot of research, come across a lot of different resources. So I've kind of compiled like a top 5 resource list for anyone that is A, just interested like me, or B, has aspirations of actually
a vested interest
joining the corps.
Yeah.
And I've got a mix of media formats as well, so they're not kind of too heavy on books or programs, so they're mixed. Good. So first up, we've got, and you probably would have seen these as well, but I'll go through them.
Go on.
So you've got Commando, Britain's Ocean Warriors. That's the iPlayer documentary that aired last year.
Yeah.
I think it's a 4-parter.
I've seen all of those,
And I think one of them's on like basic, the other one's on border course.
One of them's on MLs, right?
One of them's on ML. It's a good programme.
It is good.
It
covers the bases, and it's still on iPlayer, I think, so you can go and watch it.
It's a good overview of where the corps at present and where it's moving to in the future.
That's true, yeah.
And the first episode is also a good eye-opener for people who've got their eye on basic training.
Yeah, because it kind of details out that first hurdle. Obviously, take these things with a pinch of salt because, like anything, when a camera crew's around, certain things don't happen, certain things happen that wouldn't normally happen. Yeah. So, again, don't be watching it and then expecting exactly that to happen.
Yeah.
But take it for kind of context.
Especially in, like, non-combat scenarios as well.
Yeah.
Which brings me on to my next recommendation, which is a classic. But unfortunately, it's not available anymore, so I don't know, maybe you have to dig deep on the internet somewhere.
Which one?
It's, what is it? Royal Marines Mission Afghanistan.
Oh, it is available,
it was on,
I think.
Is it? I tried to find it on YouTube. It's like cut up into like really noisy sections, to avoid copyright or whatever.
Yeah.
But I remember watching that when that came out in like 2000.
That was my reference. That was
2012.
Yes, when I
joined. It was class. It was on good. Channel 5 before Channel 5 went down the pan. And it's this guy. And
Chris Terrell, right?
Yeah. He literally beds himself in with like 4-2 Commando.
Yeah.
For like their entire 6-month Afghan deployment.
So what he did, he actually embedded himself into training. Have you seen that one? So this is definitely on YouTube.
And it's really good as well.
So this bit is, so you just type in 55-year-old Commando. If you type that in, it's he's 55.
The only civvy with like a green beret.
Yeah, so he's 55 and he went through the entirety of training as a camera crew, but also getting involved and actually did the entirety of training because he's a fit bloke anyway. And then he did the commando tests with his camera, documenting it all, but did the commando tests with full weight, like the tripod instead of a weapon, all that kind of shit. So he did the 30 miler, got his green lid. Then he went to 4-2, like you say. Because they were happy that he'd been through all the training, they embedded him they let him into the fold, essentially, and took him out with them to Afghanistan. Yeah, he does the entire tour. He films it all. He's there as a blue
and
heart.
Good as well. In terms of like
really well
of like documentary filmmaking, like it is like really the good. Cream.
Yeah.
Because like it really they're in a shitty compound somewhere in Helmand province. Like there's Taliban all around them. Like one, I watched a clip earlier today, and they've spotted. I forgot the word that they use for them, but basically like Taliban.
A dicker.
Yeah, Taliban scout.
Yeah.
Yeah. They spot him in like the tree line.
Yeah.
So it's like all hands on deck.
Yeah.
Like, they haven't even got their body armour on.
Oh, yeah.
It's a bloke like manning a GPMG in his pants.
I've seen that clip.
It's class.
Yeah, it's class.
But like if you want like a raw perspective of like what it's actually like
to be in a war zone,
to be in a war zone, to be on deployment,
gives you a good idea.
Then that is a good idea, and it's a good contrast to Britain's Ocean Warriors,
and
because that's a bit more not staged, but it's kind of
it's just a bit more
sedate because it's in peacetime basically,
and it's modern, more modern, so it's of course going to be a little bit less punchy.
I thought this actually, because that's like 11 years old now. That Mission Afghanistan. I don't think you could televise that now, because like because it's just quite visceral. Like I don't think it will go down well with audiences.
Not on like a main channel. No.
But also just like the way that they're basically referring to the Taliban
would be probably politically incorrect.
It's politically. That's the diplomatic way to put it, which is understandable because they're in a war zone.
Yeah, they're not going to look too fondly on their enemy, are they?
But as we now know, in the culture war, context is lost on everyone.
That's true. Well,
so people would just see that and be outraged.
Yeah, there's also the part of the documentary, the first stage where he's in training with them. He's like a 6-part whatever documentary.
Yeah.
They're all like 40 minutes each, and that is really, really good. And anyone who's watching this probably has seen it, but if you haven't, it is on YouTube still. I watched it the other day for a clip I was trying to find, and so watch that. It's again called Commando. I don't know, something. Type in Commando. It'll probably come up.
Even if you don't want to join the Corps, like if you're just interested in people, basically,
Yeah.
like I have no interest in joining the Corps. Like, I just find it interesting.
Yeah.
But I find it fascinating.
Yeah, it's a good watch. It's definitely a good watch.
Right. This is one that I came across yesterday. You know, the one that I sent you.
Oh,
which is a fucking gem.
I watched a clip of that actually.
So it's deep in the archives on iPlayer, and it's called Behind the Lines, and it was first aired in 1985.
Yeah, it's old as fuck.
It's basically a documentary following the Mountain Leaders course, which was called something else back then.
Yeah,
they've rebadged it. Basically,
Yeah.
they've rebadged it, but it is so like throwback.
Yeah,
it could almost pass as a satire.
Yeah,
like you're laughing
really
watching
good.
it.
Yeah, it's really good, and it's quite an accurate representation again of what it's like to become an ML in those times. And it probably has changed a fair bit, but it hasn't. The bare bones are still probably there.
So I watched the first episode.
Yeah.
And it's like not that I have any first-hand experience, but just having researched this podcast and stuff. It's changed a lot, but it also hasn't changed.
Oh yeah,
like, it's still underpinned by that same kind
tradition
of gallows humour, like bravado. So like they're in different kit,
but it's the same.
And it's a lot more kind
blokes.
of amateur-y, but it's the same type of blokes. They've got the same type of personality.
It's fascinating. Isn't
they're
it?
laughing about the same things.
Yeah, It's got to be. I think that, because of the nature of the job, has to be instilled in the blokes, and so because the culture is made up of those kind of blokes, it keeps feeding in because they'll never die. That I don't think.
Also, there's some fucking great vintage tashes in it.
Yes,
it's like watching
especially in the MLs.
It's like watching an old porno. not that I have any experience. of that.
Without the nudity.
Yeah. Well, to be fair, I have only seen the first episode,
so we can only hope.
So that's good. Just because it's a good contrast to the more recent documentaries. So you get that.
Yeah, you get that.
You get that
And
comparison.
it's just about the ML's course, right? Yeah. So it's a bit different again.
So that's that. 2 books now.
Okay.
So Becoming the 0.1%.
Yeah, so this is fantastic.
So you've been listening to this.
I've actually just finished this today. And it's really, really good. So what it is essentially is Gareth Timmings, I think his name is. So he's the author. He went through training in 2005.
Yeah.
And throughout training, he wrote a really detailed diary every single day with every kind of deployment, everything. And he wrote that every day with no breaks, with almost, I don't know how he must have gone back and edited it and stuff and put it in the book, but it's essentially narrated, the audiobook anyway, by him as his former self.
Yes.
Going through training. And so it's fascinating. So if you've been through training and you want a bit of a throwback, a bit of nostalgia, it's awesome to listen to because it's so on the nose and so accurate and candid. If you're about to go through training or you're interested, like you say, just in people or whatever, it's really interesting because it does, because it's such a detailed thing, because it's a book 500 minutes worth of reading. He can go in such detail about little tiny things, and because it's a diary, again, he's not like trying to call on his memory to call things and then therefore forget really, really bad times. It's a diary that actually went chronologically along the time, so it's really accurate, really interesting. So yeah, definitely recommend that. Becoming the 0.1%, and you can either obviously get the book or the audio book. But yeah, I listened to that today. Awesome.
Yeah, well, I've not read it, but I read like the first few pages online, and I think I am going to read it. But also, from what I can gather, there's just something for everyone. Because like you said, it's relevant if you're about to go into training. It's relevant if you've been through training.
100%.
But also, it's relevant if you're interested in the core.
Yeah.
But it's also relevant to just anyone.
Yeah.
Because the overall advice given in the book can be applied to normal day-to-day existence.
And actually,
it's like applying that marine mindset in your own life.
And I won't spoil it, but kind of...
Oh, does he die at the end?
No. like kind of with...
Was it a dream?
With the... it's all a dream. With the kind of throwback to when he was really, really young and what he kind of was dealing with mentally and socially and stuff like that. And then to come through it and become a commando and achieve his goal. Like you say, there is something for everyone, because everyone can take that into their own context, into their own lives, and maybe learn something from that. So it's really good. I'd recommend that one, because I've just finished it.
Yeah, so that's Becoming the 0.1% by Gareth Timmins. Yeah. So have you got any more? Because my next one you definitely won't. This is quite a niche one.
Okay.
More for like RM officers.
So one I'm just going to shout out one of my competitors here, which is the rule number one of what you don't do in business. But anyway, I will do, because it's quite relevant, I think. So this is a para, Coach Mike Chadwick, who I've never met, but I've had dealings with on social media.
He's a good lad.
Really, he's an ex-army physical training instructor, ex-parachute regiment, and his book is called The Red On Revolution. I've just started it pretty much, but I can kind of see where he's going. I can see that it's going to be a valuable one. So again, haven't listened to the whole thing, listened to the first hour.
Is that new out?
Yeah, fairly.
Yeah, I haven't come across that before.
So the cool thing about it, which I'll just touch on, it's a bit like Davy Goggins' book, the format. So it will introduce it, and then in between every chapter, he's found someone who relates to that topic and podcasts with them in between each chapter on the audiobook anyway. And so the first one's like a heavyweight UFC fighter. He's got Ant Middleton in there. Staz from Through Dark is in there. Like a lot of people you can definitely learn from. He interviews in between, so that's really valuable. So if you've got Audible and you're into that kind of stuff, which I'm guessing you are because you listen to a podcast, then definitely that one. Red On Revolution by Mike Chadwick is that one.
Oh, shout out to a competitor and the paras.
I ain't scared.
Fucking hell, he sold.
Fuck it. That's all I care about is, people.
Yeah, we're just trying to equip people.
Yeah, all I care about is people equipping themselves and learning about how to prepare better, because it's something I didn't do. And if you want to use my resources for that, then do it. Obviously, great. But I'm going to give you everyone else who I think is valuable, because
and there's enough really fucking cunty gatekeepers in the fitness industry as well. I'm not about that.
I'm not about that. Share the love, mate.
It should be inclusive. Yeah,
exactly. There's a couple others, but I think in terms of books and stuff and hard resource, I think that's probably the top.
We haven't plugged any other podcasts. I know we're basically shouting out our competitors. Jason Fox had a podcast at one point, but I don't know whether
I've listened to it, actually.
I listened to a few, but I think it was more interview.
Yeah, it might not have been about this topic, to be honest.
But he's a good lad, so listen to it anyway.
Yeah. To be honest, I don't think... Ant Middleton's got one, but again, it'll be interview format. I haven't stumbled across one that kind of covers a similar job in my kind of research for my own business, but no. I know there's random little interviews that Sam Logan from Complete Commando does with serving people. So he does one with a sniper, which is quite a good listen.
Oh, okay, right.
But it's not a podcast that goes on. It's just
they're just little nuggets, though, aren't they?
Yeah,
trying to give people pillars that they can tether themselves onto.
Yeah. So again, like, not related to the Marines directly, but things like David Goggins' book is hugely valuable from a mental strength and mental toughness standpoint. Things like Zero Negativity by Ant Middleton. Again, great book and a great perspective on tough times and hard things, and if you're about to face a load of that in the next 8 months, then maybe having that perspective from someone who's done it is valuable.
Oh, there's just so many. In fact, well, to be fair, we both smash books. So
that's
if
true.
anyone wants any more recommendations, then hit us up. Yeah, message us, because we've got fucking shed loads.
We'll have loads of them, especially around this kind of topic for me anyway, because it's my vested interest. So I'm obsessed with this shit.
Well, so my final one is a bit more left field.
Go for it.
It's not entirely on topic, but it's not off topic.
Okay.
It's more from my background of like geography and international relations.
Yeah.
So you didn't know, like I studied international relations at university. So this is more relevant for, I would say, probably officers.
Right. Yeah.
People that are kind of aspiring to go higher up, and it's not a case of like the what and the where. They want to know why.
Yeah.
So it's called Prisoners of Geography.
Yeah.
By Tim Marshall.
Okay.
It's basically like the Bible of international relations.
Oh, sweet. That's actually relevant.
Each chapter is set on a different area of the world or potential flashpoint. Okay. So the first chapter is Russia, which is relevant.
Yeah.
Which is written in 2016 as well. It basically predicted the Ukrainian war.
Mad.
So if you want a selling factor, he's basically Mystic Meg.
Yeah. Well, that is super valuable because, as you've said, officers have to have that information. So when you go through officer prep or selection, you do an AIB, which is a special interview board, where they will assess your knowledge of current affairs, your ability to succinctly kind of brush over current warfare, how you would maybe deal with these general scenarios. So that's probably a really interesting one. One of my one-to-one clients is studying international relations now. So
global.
I said to him, because he's going officer, I said that's
perfect.
That'll put you in a massive.
This bloke's not a hat either. Like he was an intelligence analyst in the RAF.
Okay.
And then he was a pretty big foreign correspondent at Sky for ages.
Yeah.
So he knows his stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just, so if you're kind of interested in that kind of thing, or like you're going into an officer or whatever, and you want to understand potential flashpoints in the future of warfare, where it's going to kick off, why what is happening in the world at the moment is happening.
Yeah.
In terms of, through the lens of geography as well. So why countries are constrained to do certain things because of the resources that they either have at their disposal or don't.
Or haven't. So they've got to reach out and do something. Yeah.
The physical borders that kind of either do or don't protect.
Yes. Yeah.
Protect them.
Interesting for everyone, to be fair. That again.
Yeah. So it's a bit left field, but like if you are interested in that, it's probably the best example that I have of like an all-encompassing book that one book or publication that kind of
encapsulates
all of it. Yeah, like the Bible.
Yeah.
So yes, you got Commando, Britain's Ocean Warriors, which is available on iPlayer.
Yeah.
Behind the Lines, the throwback documentary, which is also available on iPlayer.
Oh yeah.
Royal Marines Mission Afghanistan,
which should be available on YouTube, I think.
And
don't quote me on that.
The prequel to it,
which with the training stuff. You have to watch.
So if you can track one of them down, you'll be able to track the other one.
Yeah.
Becoming the 0.1%.
Fantastic. Audiobook and book. I've obviously only heard the audiobook, but yeah.
The Mike Chadwick book.
Red on Revolution.
Yeah, I need to read that. And Prisoner of Geography.
Yeah.
So you've got a lot there.
And that actually spans a fair kind of topic range as well, to be fair. So we've not just got the physical there. And obviously the ones we mentioned, David Goggins' book is more on the mentality side of stuff. So that covers your whole bases, really, isn't it?
Yeah, and the wonderful thing about algorithms these days as well is if you get yourself stuck into them, you will be inundated with other relevant recommendations as well.
Yeah, you don't need us to do it. The algorithms will take care of it for you. If you read this one, you may like. Yeah.
But if you do want other book recommendations, just hit us up.
Yeah, or podcast or whatever.
Comment
whatever
below,
it is. Because again, we're not going to hold any prisoners with recommending potential competitors or whatever it is. Because again, I'm not bothered about that. I'm just bothered about people getting better and people actually improving their ability to prep for the Marines. That's why I started what I do.
So we've given you some solid pillars there. We appreciate that not everyone likes reading, which is why we haven't chewed your ear off for an hour about it.
Yeah.
But if you do want more, then hit us up.
Yeah, I'll just quickly sort of cover off how I approach the preparation side of things now, because obviously with my experience and my knowledge that I've gained from the last 6-7 years.
Yeah, plug yourself, lad.
Yeah,
because you plugged other people.
I'm gonna.
Even though I haven't plugged you. He's got to fight his own corner.
Yeah, I'm gonna fight my own corner. Just see me off. Anyway, yeah. So my academy, and as we mentioned, people train suboptimally, and I did myself just doing bodyweight phys and running. So the good thing about the academy format is that we've got people for a long period of time, hopefully, so we can build them that foundation. So I started with that 10-week program, which is still available if you just want a single payment program. That's great. You can go and take that PDF and do what you will with it,
which is better than what a lot of people have anyway. Yeah. So
don't think,
if you think, I can't afford the academy or whatever, like that's still going to give you solid foundation.
And that's why I wanted to give a little bit of everything. So to just come back a little bit to why I've got a little bit of everything going on is, some people don't like a subscription model because they feel like they're tied into something. So that's where the prep program comes in. Other people want the accountability. So there you go. You've got the academy. And other people want a more bespoke approach where I've got the one-to-one stuff. Yeah. So I tried to plug every gap. Anyway, the academy allows us hopefully to get you before you apply, certainly, and a couple of months before then. So we can build that strength base and have you in like an accumulation phase, we call it, where you're doing high reps, getting used to the form, getting used to the movements, building your core strength, building your aerobic base, and then after that we go into tests and specifically looking at how can we prep for the PJFT, how can we prep for the CPC, and what I do is I've, as we mentioned, prehab and trying to be conscious of rehabilitation and injury prevention. In the warm-ups, I put you through some common prehab exercises that I spent a year on the floor as a PT in the general population, so not athletes, not military or ex-military, but the general population, which 50-year-old blokes who have fucked knees, feel like they can't squat, can't walk down the stairs. And these are the movements that I put into their programs.
Yeah.
And they would see me twice a week and they'd be like, fucking hell, in 2 months my knee feels like so much stronger, all this. So I've just sort of taken that first-hand experience and thought, well, let's put that into a military preparation program, because then this person who's already got strong knees because he's young,
I was going to say, if you can resurrect basically
blown out knees 50 years
then
old,
it's not going to do any harm to someone that's already fit and healthy.
Exactly. So that's where I've got some of those movements from, which may look a bit unorthodox. And then in my accessory work, I like to put in bodybuilding stuff, which when prescribed correctly can be useful.
Yeah.
Because yes, you don't want to just do fucking bench press and tricep extensions to get into the military,
No.
But what have you got to do when you're doing a press up for loads of times? You've got to have strong enduring triceps. So let's do some tricep extensions. That's not going to hurt. Let's do some isolation work for the rear delts to make your shoulders sit in the right position.
Yeah.
So all those kind of things are involved, and then you've got obviously the ability to chat to me on a one-to-one basis if you've got any issues or any problems or whatever with the program. So that's where the accountability comes in, and we'll check in with you on a regular basis. But I wanted to create something like that because, again, I didn't have anything that was solid when I was going through training. Because, if I'd have had something that I could pay, it is a minimal amount as well. It's £20 a month, $19.99 a month. If I could get my mom to pay that easy. I could just say, right, I'm gonna be out of your hair in 2 years. Pay this for me for this amount of time. I made it affordable, and I think if you're going through and you're thinking to yourself, one, I've got no idea kind of where to put everything, because yes, there's loads of information, but sometimes that can be an issue because it's too much information.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's the paradox of choice, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's like, so you've got a good choice, but you've got too much choice.
Yeah, I know I've got to do low impact swimming, running, weightlifting, but where do I put it all, and how much do I do, how much do I prescribe? So again, it takes care of all that. It puts your mind at rest. And also I think if you go into a course where someone else has prescribed the volume and someone else has said, you are going to be ready when you've done this amount of work, then you can go into that course confidently.
Yeah.
You've put in the necessary reps to achieve what you need to achieve, essentially.
Yeah, so it's basically foolproof.
Yeah.
You've put it all there for them.
And they've just got to
They've got the peace of mind that they're doing relevant stuff, and it's going to get them to where they wanted to be.
Yeah.
They just need to do it.
Yeah, and again, even if they're wavering in the last couple of weeks before they have CPC or whatever, they can message me on a one-to-one and I can get them through that. So I think it's valuable. I think it's going to be it'd be pivotal in terms of if you're going down that path, even if you're joining the RAF or wherever you're going.
Yeah, it's relevant.
If you're having no structure or no accountability or no programming, just trying to do it yourself.
Yeah.
To invest that little bit in yourself and actually put yourself through a program, and again put your mind at ease. Yeah. Then that's a brilliant thing to have access to, I think.
Yeah, and it is good.
Yeah.
So I've seen the feedback that you've got, and you know what you're doing.
Yeah. I'm not just making it up.
I have known you for a while now, unfortunately. So.
Yeah, unfortunately, I am obsessed with Fizz. So he has to look at me every fucking week and hear me drear on about fitness.
I haven't got anything else to add.
Yeah.
You got anything else you want to plug? Your OnlyFans or something?
Yeah, that's linked in the top. There's top link in the description. No, good to go. I think we've covered it. I think it was a useful one to do because we covered. I mentioned doing this bonus episode probably after like episode 2, was it?
Yeah.
Because we had the schedule for lifting the lid, and I feel like we covered everything from putting your application in forwards.
Yeah,
but there's a big portion before that, before you even get to that point. So I feel like it would have done us a disservice not to put some effort into this portion. So this bonus episode is for anyone who wants to join the Marines, really. But again, like you said, anyone can be interested in what goes into it. But
that brings our Lifting the Lid series
to a close, unfortunately. Yeah, so that's us with the Lifting the Lid stuff. Obviously, 5 main episodes, then the bonus.
But fear not.
Yeah, we're not going anywhere. Don't you worry about it.
We're back stronger.
This bar is going to be put to some good use.
Yeah, we're going to have a revamp of the set.
Yeah.
It's going to look really techy. Back with a new series.
Yes.
Below the Bar. We can disclose the name now.
Yeah.
We've signed all the contracts with Spotify.
Yeah, so we're gonna change obviously the branding and stuff, but it's still the Brummy Brothers podcast. But the series now, rather than it being Lifting the Lid, is now Below the Bar. What are we going to cover?
What aren't we going to cover? He's a better way to handle it.
Yeah, so this is going to be more of a general podcast. Obviously,
it's going to be through the lens of fitness.
Yeah,
but we're going to try and cover a lot of wider topics.
Yeah, so we're obviously best placed to talk about fitness. You're a qualified personal trainer, and so am I. And obviously, I've had a background in the military and stuff, which lends itself to that. But we have got obviously other interests that we want to bring to the fore and think we can provide value around. So that's going to be where we're going to take it. We don't really have a structure for the first kind of few episodes, so we'll leave you in suspense for that. But they will be hopefully coming out on a weekly basis. The same as these have been, to keep that continuity going. So look out for that. Like, this will be the end of Lifting the Lid, but Below the Bar is coming.
Stay tuned.
And thanks for listening. And if you've got any comments or ideas or questions or whatever, bang them in the comment box below, and then review us on Spotify, because apparently that helps the algorithm.
Yeah, subscribe, like, comment,
all that bollocks.
Review, send me nudes, anything. You know, got any freebies, any companies?
Yeah, anything you want to send us, basically, send this to. We'll put the address in the description. We won't. That could end badly.
I'm a slut for freebies.
Cool. That's us, and we'll see you in not the next episode of this, but our first episode of Below the Bar.
See you in a bit.